What is up, guys? PK here. Now, I wasn't really feeling myself today. I was feeling a little bit lightheaded, so I didn't really feel like doing anything too editing heavy. So I thought this was a prime opportunity to tell you guys another great story. Now, this is the story of that one time my dad convinced me to smuggle $100,000 in cash out of the country so he could avoid the Danish tax authorities. Yes, that really happened. So let me give you the setup, okay? I'm 14 years old. This is a couple of months before I'm supposed to go on a vacation to visit my dad, who lives in Brazil. My parents were divorced. My dad lives in Brazil. And we're supposed to go on a cruise in Miami. And he calls me one day, and I'm 14. And he calls me one day and sounding a little bit serious, right? And he tells me that I'm supposed to go up to this bank, which is called Nordea, which is a fairly large Nordic bank. And he tells me that there's $100,000 there waiting for me that I'm supposed to pick up and bring on me in my person, have on my person as we go through the airport and fly to Miami. And I didn't know at the time exactly why. I don't think I quite understood what the point was. I just told you the point. The point is that he wanted to avoid paying over $60,000 in taxes, because we have a very high tax in Denmark, especially when you make a lot of money. Then you can pay over 60% of your income in taxes, right? And living in Brazil, he still had a bunch of money in Denmark. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. He tells me that there's $100,000 lying there waiting for me. And what you need to understand is the 14-year-old me. If you want to imagine the 14-year-old me, okay? Then imagine a slightly tall, slightly skinny 14-year-old moron who tries to look like a gangster, okay? Like a gangster, or like a cross between a gangster and a biker, okay? So I remember the sweatshirt I was wearing that day. It was completely black, and it had like huge rocker-like markings on the back, right? So I look like a total moron, okay? With baggy pants and everything, okay? And the day comes when I'm supposed to go up there. So I go up there with my friend Tim. He's my best friend at the time. And I believe it was a Sunday. There was a full line in the bank, and our turn. We wait for our turn, and I go up to the nice lady at the counter, and I tell her hi, my name's Michael. I'm supposed to pick up $100,000. And she looks really weird at me, like I'm crazy. And she goes, "Excuse me?" I go, "Hi, my name is Michael. I'm supposed to pick up $100,000." And I just say it out loud, right? No. I don't understand how much money that is at this time, right? And she just looks at me like I'm absolutely crazy. And she goes, "Hold on a second." She walks away, and she starts speaking to other people, right? And I start feeling really awkward, because like 5-10 minutes pass by, and they open another counter. And she starts pointing at me like while she's talking on the phone and talking to other people, and like pointing over at me, and like I start to feel a little bit awkward, not gonna lie. I'm like, have I done something? What's going on here? And so she comes over after a while, asks me for some identification, and I give her my passport that my dad told me that I was supposed to bring. And she grabs my passport, walks away. She makes some more phone calls, and like it probably verifies that I'm the person she's supposed to give $100,000, right? So she comes back to me, and like she's almost whispering to me, right? Because there's other people around you. So she's like, "Yeah, you're getting picked up, right?" Like, no. "So how are you getting home?" I'm like, "I'm walking home." She's like, she looks at me again like I'm absolutely crazy, right? It's like, "You're walking home?" Like, yeah, we live right like 10-15 minute walk. And she's like, "Are you sure you don't want to call someone? Call anyone to get you come here and pick you up?" Like, no, it's fine. And she's like, you could just see that she's like, "Am I giving $100,000 to these two crazy ass retard looking kids?" I guess so. She walks away. She comes back with this envelope, right? I think that's what it's called, like a small paper bag. And she like looks around as if like she looks shady as fuck, like shady as hell. And she's like, "Okay, you guys, you don't tell anyone about this money, and you walk straight home." And she's like, "Be quiet about it," right? Because I was just speaking normally, right? I wasn't like, it hadn't crossed my mind that if someone crazy hears that there are two 14-year-olds walking around with $100,000, how easy would it be to kids are defenseless. I'm 14. If someone large decided to go and grab that, what's gonna stop them, right? Like, sure, I may run, but that's my only chance, right? If someone snuck up on me and actually punched me in the face, there goes 100,000. Anyways, she gives me the money somewhat reluctantly, and we walk home. Nothing happens, and we count the money because my dad had told me that I should count the money, so I did. Then the day comes when we're supposed to fly, right? And my dad was very specific. He told me that I was to have all of the money on my person as we go through airport security, right? And the idea here being that if I get caught, I'm 14. Nothing illegal. So I'm under the criminal legal age in Denmark. And I knew something was up. Like, I knew something was slightly shady, but I didn't know what, okay? Because I was 14, I didn't understand. Like, I didn't know exactly what it was. I just knew that something was off, right? But he told me very specifically to have the money on my person as we go through. And so I do that. I have the money on my person. I'm traveling with my older brother. He knows as well that we're doing that, and both my cousins. But I'm the only one who's 14, right? So we go through airport security. I get waved past, like, as I go through, you know, the metal detector and all that, and I get waved on. And I'm like, for a moment, everything's great, right? I'm like, yes. I'm thinking in my head. And then someone goes, what's that in your back pocket? Fuck. Just like this, come over. I come over. He pulls out $10,000, right? Because they were like in 10 increments of like $10,000, each with like a little label around. He goes, what's this? I go, some of my dad's money. Because my dad had told me very specifically, he told me very specifically that if anything out of the ordinary happened, if they said anything, I should tell the truth, right? He didn't ask me to lie. He told me if whatever happened, just tell them the truth. You have nothing to hide, right? Regardless, this is not, you know, this is not on you. So I did. So I told him, this is just some of my dad's money, and he starts patting me from top to toe, right? And go, whoop, that's another $10,000. Whoop, that's another $10,000. Whoop, where did you have all this money from, right? And you know, so there I am, 14-year-old in the middle of the Kastrup Lufthavn, which is like the largest Danish airport in Copenhagen, essentially Copenhagen airport, with like airport security around me, just picking out bunches of $10,000 up my pockets, right? And this just gets more and more awkward, right? And so obviously, once they had found all the $100,000, we're all detained, right? And put into separate rooms and interviewed by first airport security, then the police, and then the Danish tax authorities. It got so bad that they literally had to drive us out on one of those, you know, airport vehicles, you know, sort of like a golf cart, but for airports, right? They had to drive us all the way there out to our plane, because otherwise we would have missed our plane. Because and you know, it was an international flight, so we had to be there 2 hours before. So we were interviewed for at least an hour and a half, right? Just with, you know, whose money is this? Where's this money from? And I did what I said. I told the truth, didn't lie. And really, what this all came down to was the fact that my dad probably thought that, just my dad, great guy, love him to death, miss him very much because he's passed away since, but otherwise I would not be telling this story, let me make that very clear. But he always had a very loose relationship to rules, let's put it that way. A very loose relation. I think that's a polite way of saying it. I wouldn't say that he was, because he wasn't but he had a loose relationship to rules. Like, that's the best way I can put it. And I think I somewhat inherited it from him, which is why I've done so many dumb things in my teenage years. Like this day and age, I am absolutely 100% on the right side of the law. But let's just say that caused a bunch of bumps in my childhood, right? Because that's the role model I had, right? Telling his 14-year-old son, who is under the criminal legal age, to smuggle $100,000 in cash out of the country so that he could not pay $60,000 or 60 plus. Less than 70, but definitely over $60,000 would have been paid in taxes, right? Because he lived and worked in Brazil, but he still had a lot of money, most likely from stocks in Denmark, right? Due to purchasing and selling stocks. and you don't have to pay the taxes until you sell the stocks, right? So essentially, if you've had a bunch of money there, and then you know those money have grown over time, and then now you've earned a portion after the sale. You may, if you started with 10,000, and then now they're 100,000. Stupid example, but then you have 90,000, and then you'd have to pay taxes of those 90,000. And this was $100,000 he had earned through buying and selling stocks, which means that they were going to get taxed at over 60%, right, due to the amount. So essentially, I think my dad's logic was something like this. Well, if my son makes it out of the country, I just saved $60,000. If he doesn't, no harm done. He's 14. And then I'll have to pay the taxes, but oh my god, this is so stupid. But yeah, that's just one of many Mad Lad stories I have from my childhood. And I thought I would share these stories with you guys so you could get to know me a little bit better. Let's just say it made for a very bumby childhood. So yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little story. And as always, I love you guys. Stay awesome. Peace out.